Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to some more Black Ops 2. And today I've got a 100 plus, it's actually 121 for 2 on the map raid. This would have been sick at the beginning of the game right here. I get like 4 or 5 kills and then I get killed. But this would have been really nice if this was the starting point of the first streak. But unfortunately, you'll see in a second, I do get taken out by some guy with a target finder. And luckily it spawns me right next to a LSAT with a target finder, so I do exact my revenge, which is pretty fucking sweet if you ask me. And whenever you do see a target finder LMG on the floor, just pick it up as your secondary. It's not like you're using it as your sort of main weapon. You didn't set up a class using it or anything like that. So I don't feel it's going to necessarily make you worse at the game. I generally find that if you're using a target finder and you're sitting in a building like that guy who was still sitting in the same building, just looking out, waiting for people to come, I don't think that's going to make you any better at the game. It's not going to aid you with your skills at sort of finding the spawns and shit. It's generally going to make you worse because you're essentially still camping. And that's probably the sort of main problem I have with people using target finders. The people who use them, they're generally pretty bad players. And they never really get good scores. I think the guy who was using the target finder at the beginning of the game, he wasn't actively looking for people in the spawn or anything like that. He was just sort of sitting in the building waiting for people to walk past like I did, unfortunately. And I got shot and killed. But he's obviously not going to do any better at the game than, say, someone like I am, because I'm going into the spawns, looking for the enemies and stuff. He's generally going to do sort of worse than everyone else because he's essentially just a camper, and he's just the same sort of camper that we've seen in all of the other Call of Duties, except now he's got a better instrument to camp with, so a little bit unfortunate. And as I was saying, always pick up a target finder LMG as a secondary, because they are just really useful just to sort of make sure you don't choke any of your kill streaks and stuff. If I didn't pick up that target finder, then it probably wouldn't have been as easy for me to get my dogs and my swarm, just because the enemies were coming from that spawn where it is quite far away, and it's often quite easy for them to head glitch, like counter head glitch you on the on that rock and the ledge as well. But anyway, just like after this point, it's pretty easy to get an 100 plus. I mean, once you've got your first set of streaks, all you pretty much have to do is just move around the map the same way that I normally would. Go from A to B to C, just killing as many enemies as you can along the way. And the good thing is if you get like captures and stuff, it adds towards your next set of streaks and shit. And sometimes your swarm or like your dogs can like generally push you up to your next set of streaks anyway. So I don't really find it as impressive when you see these guys going for like these big kill games. I mean, sometimes you see people go for like, I think the highest flawless is like 260 for O or something. And he didn't even get a nuclear at the end of the game. He was just, I think he was using Lodestar, Swarm and Dogs or something. And he was basically, as soon as he got his first set of streaks, he was spawn trapping with like a full party. And then he just basically managed to loop his streaks like 4 or 5 times. And obviously that maximised the amount of kills. He was playing in a full party, so they made sure the game went on for the full 10 minutes. They didn't capture B until they needed to capture it. So yeah, I don't really find it as impressive. I find it far more impressive people getting like quick nuclears and shit, 10k score. And speaking of which, my next upload is going to be a 10k score game on the map Plaza, using the AN-94. And I do get 10k score, and I also get a nice 3-minute nuclear where it's dead on 3-minute as well. So that's a pretty nice game, and that will probably be my next upload. But yeah, I mean, as a whole, I haven't really been playing too much Call of Duty as of late. I've actually gone back to playing Fallout New Vegas. I mean, I got a bit bored of Borderlands. Borderlands is probably my game that I go back to just because it's sort of open world, and I really enjoy playing open world games. But I've got a bit bored of Borderlands recently. Thankfully, they're bringing out some new DLC sort of fairly soon, and then I'll probably make it my my go back to game once again. But I've actually gone back to New Vegas, and I've sort of reset all of my missions and started again. I started playing all of the old DLC again, like Old World Blues and shit. And it's just an amazing game. Like, I mean, if you look at some of the game developers that make games like Call of Duty, and all of the other game developers, I mean, look at a developer like Valve, for instance. Valve, of course, made like Half-Life 2, Portal 2, Team Fortress 2, Left 4 Dead 2, a lot of sequels there. So they make a lot of good games. And when they release their games, like, they don't really have any bugs and shit. I mean, look at Portal 2, it's like flawless graphics. The concept is absolutely perfect. It must be pretty hard to make a game where you shoot a portal at the wall and then you come out of the other portal sort of fairly flawlessly. And as I remember, I played multiplayer on that as well, and there wasn't really any bugs at all. But when you think of games like Modern Warfare 3 or like Black Ops 2, for instance, there's bugs like throughout the life cycle, like until the end of the game. I remember in Modern Warfare 3, for instance, they were balancing the weapons like even like 2 months before the end of the sort of life cycle of the game. I mean, even at the end of the game, the ACR and the MP7 were still like very, very dominant weapons. And then finally they decided to patch it and make the MP5 and a few of the other weapons a little stronger, but still they were like no comparison at all to the MP7 and the ACR, which is a bit of a shame. It just sort of points out the integrity of some of these developers, and sort of companies like Valve. They really do proof their work. They make a really, really good product that's pretty flawless right up until the end of the game. But personally, my favourite game designer of all time, favourite game developer, is Bethesda. Bethesda have made some fucking amazing games. Probably my most favourite game of all time, probably the game that got me into gaming so much, was probably Fallout 3 back in the Capital Wasteland, Washington DC. Man, I just fucking love that game so much. I think I had like a ridiculous amount of time playing that game. I think I had like 600 hours or something on one of my saves, and then like 600 on another one. So yeah, quite a lot of time spent playing that game, and it was an absolutely amazing game. I loved it to bits. And of course they made Skyrim as well, which of course was like Game of the Year. It was pretty flawless. I mean, there were a few sort of glitches and bugs in that as well, but it was such a huge game. It was so like it was just such a big thing to do, and they managed to pull it off pretty flawlessly. Although there were a few bugs, but it was a very, very sort of it was a huge project. So of course it wasn't going to be 100% flawless, but for what it was absolutely amazing. And of course it did deserve to win the awards that it did. And New Vegas as well, which is probably their most recent Fallout. Well, it is the most recent Fallout, of course. That game's pretty flawless as well. I mean, there are some sort of bugs, and the game does get a little bit freezy on console. I do play it on console, which is probably the reason why it does have so many bugs and shit, because PlayStation 3 just doesn't run the games as well as PC or Xbox, because it uses like different software and shit. It just wasn't made the same way that the other sort of consoles and PC were made, where they were made to run the games really, really well. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the end of the gameplay, guys. Hope you enjoyed the commentary. It's been a little bit random. I've just sort of talked about some random games and shit. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of insight into what games I'm playing and shit. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the gameplay, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace out.